Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're jumping into a story that really starts with one single strange moment and then just completely spirals into this fascinating tangled mystery. We're going to break down the case of the South Hills Sasquatch.
I mean, really think about that. For one teenager over in Idaho, a quick, unbelievable sight from a school bus window wasn't just a weird story to tell his friends. It sparked a lifelong mission to find answers. It took him from just a curious kid to a full-blown investigator. You know, you'd think a story like this would start deep in some spooky remote forest, right? Nope. This one kicks off on a totally normal trip home from a middle school ski day. A moment of routine that was about to get anything.
So picture this. He's in the South Hills area, part of the Sawtooth Mountains. It's rugged, it's beautiful. But on this one day, he's about to see this familiar landscape in a way that's, well, completely new and honestly pretty shocking.
He just kind of freezes, trying to figure out what he's even looking at. Right away, he knew it wasn't a bear. That's a normal sight up there. But this was different. He said he could actually make out the facial structure, and to him, it looked like something ancient, something right out of a history book.
And that's what popped into his head. Australopithecus, an early human ancestor, somehow just standing there in Idaho. He scrambled to get his friends to look, but you know how it goes. By the time they turned, it was gone. A teacher heard the commotion and just laughed. Maybe it was Bigfoot. And that one little joke, it pretty much set the course for the rest of Dakota's life.
So that sighting, it didn't just fade away like a weird dream. No, it stuck with him. It pushed him into years of his own research, and it all led up to a very deliberate, planned-out investigation in July of 2011. He was going back, only this time he had a plan. So now he's older, he's way more focused, and he heads back to a spot just 10 minutes from where he saw that figure years ago. But he's not just winging it. He actually consulted with another researcher to sharpen his strategy. And the plan was so simple, it's brilliant. Use a very specific lure, a single chocolate bar, set up some cameras, and then just wait. All right, let's talk about his gear for a second, because it wasn't exactly some high-tech lab. We are talking 2 camcorders, a kid's night vision toy. Yeah, you heard that right, and his notes. But see, that was kind of the point. It wasn't about having flashy gadgets. It was about being patient, being observant, and having one very specific and hopefully very tempting piece of bait. So Dakota's setting up his camp for the night, and as the sun starts to go down, that simple plan of his, it's about to take a wild, unexpected turn. Turns out the waiting patiently part of his plan was going to be a lot shorter than he thought. He sees some movement nearby. At first, he actually thinks it's his younger cousin messing with him. But when he gets a better look, he realizes it's this creature covered in dark fur. And there it is again, that same face that looked like an Australopithecus. It was a younger one, a juvenile, and it seemed just as curious about him as he was about it. But in that moment of pure shock, Dakota flinched, and poof, the creature was gone, vanished into the woods. Now, he made the really smart decision not to chase after it. I mean, it was way too fast, and it knew the terrain. But the next morning, he goes to check on his bait station. The chocolate bar? It's gone. And right there in the dirt was something pretty startling. Right near where the chocolate was, he finds this clear, ape-like footprint, and the size he estimated, it's just incredible. A U.S. men's size 22. To put that into perspective for you, that is the same shoe size as Shaquille O'Neal. A massive print like that, well, it strongly suggested that the little guy he saw wasn't alone. Its parent was probably nearby. So for more than 10 years, this was Dakota's story, backed up by his photos and his notes. But in 2022, he decided to do something huge. He took all his findings to a top scientific expert. And that move? It was a real game changer for his case. And that expert was Dr. Jeff Meldrum. Now, this isn't just some enthusiast. This is a professor of anatomy and anthropology at Idaho State University. He's an expert in how primates are built and how they move. He's one of the only academics out there willing to seriously and scientifically look at the evidence for Sasquatch. And here's the kicker. When Dakota laid out his case, the photos, the detailed notes, the story about the juvenile's behavior,
Dr. Meldrum didn't just brush it off. He was actually impressed by how thorough the documentation was. He said the story was credible. And that validation right there is what took this case from a really cool personal story to a serious potential piece of evidence in the whole Sasquatch mystery.
Okay, but the story is far from over. It doesn't just end with a footprints and a nod from an expert. Oh no. Like a lot of these deep mysteries, the South Hills Sasquatch case starts to get tangled up with even stranger events and, let's just say, much wilder theories. The rabbit hole here gets way, way deeper.
So the area around that first sighting started to get more complex. In the following years, there were fires that some people think might have pushed the creatures to move, but sightings kept happening in the regions next door. And then people started connecting all this to the local geology, specifically these huge networks of old volcanic tunnels. I mean, could these things be some kind of hidden highway system? Or maybe even where they live?
And this is where the story just goes into a whole other dimension. A book in 2020 claimed to have mapped out entrances to a subterranean inner Earth, with some of those entrances located right there in Southern Idaho. Then an even wilder theory came out, saying that Sasquatch aren't from Earth at all, but that they're ET refugees. The local mystery had officially gone cosmic.
So, in the end, the South Hills Sasquatch case, a story that started with just one kid's glimpse from a bus, leaves us with this really provocative question. When we're looking for this thing, are we looking for an undiscovered animal, a hidden resident of Earth's deep places, or are we dealing with something from somewhere else entirely? The only thing that seems certain is that the search for answers is far from over.